Good evening, parents and students, and thanks for taking the time to view this short video. More of an information for everyone involved regarding the Year 9 Activity Week, which we're well underway in the planning stage for 2022. As you can see, it's not until term 3, but one of the activities, our snowy Canberra trip, is quite expensive and will require a lot of planning on parents and students' behalf. So the reason why we like to have this meeting so early is just to let people know why we plan an activity week. We'd like to give you some information about both camps, both with CYC, which is Christian Youth Camp, which is an employer that we engage to provide the event at Burleigh Heads, and also the snow trip. We'll explain a little bit more about that because it's quite in depth. We'd like to take this opportunity to also identify and point out the selection criteria involved, the payment timelines, insurances that you can take out, what happens if on a trip your son or daughter experiences an injury or gets sick, some of the major rules, and of course our college behaviour and expectations for the excursions. And then we'll talk about what happens next. So one of the major reasons we offer here at Mount St Pat's a whole cohort opportunity to experience camps is for the opportunity for kids to interact at a different level, away from the classroom, away from school, and while they're doing recreational activities that they quite enjoy. We found over the past it develops resilience, improves relationships, both with the kids themselves and as a small selection of the staff that go away with these students to supervise and provide the opportunities. And lastly, there you can see it creates great connections and lasting memories. For some, it's the first time away from mums and dads, and that's the opportunity we like to present.
Yes, my name's Josh McCormack, and I'll just jump in here and talk to you about the Year 9 camp at Burleigh, which, as Tim said, runs by Christian Youth Camps. We use those providers for multiple activities across the school. You can see there that it runs in conjunction with the snow camp. So those students who do not choose the Snowy Canberra excursion will go on the camp to Burleigh, which runs from Monday through to Thursday, and they're not required at school on Friday. So they work on developing resilience, teamwork, leadership, and some community spirit. These are some pictures from our previous camps. So they travel to Burleigh Heads. They're there for 4 days and 3 nights, and they're led by camp staff and our college staff. Some of the activities that they'll participate in are tubing, giant stand-up paddleboard, canoeing adventures, initiative games, and a coastal trek. So I guess in terms of moving forward for interest in this camp, and we'll speak to this quite a bit during this presentation, but early next year, parents and students will receive an expression of interest form via email, which needs to be completed as soon as that gets sent out virtually, so we can start creating a list. We've got here in larger font that's saying it is a school requirement that your son or daughter attend either one of these camps, so please start thinking about those. And then obviously once we've got students' interests, we create our list for the Canberra Snowy group or the Burleigh CYC group, and then we sort of start disseminating information separately there. In terms of cost for the Burleigh CYC camp, it's $450, which includes food and activities and transport. This will be included on all Year 9 students' fees in 2022 as part of an excursion levy. We'll start talking about the Canberra Snowy trip very soon.
So parents, one of the main reasons that we're getting in so early is because of the costs involved and all the pre-planning to get a group of 100 students safely to Canberra and onto the snow and have an enjoyable time participating in ALPINE events. So you can see from this slide here, we've got the timeline. Now, costs have significantly increased due to COVID and the 2 years that the ski fields have not basically operated. So if any parents have sent students in the past, you'll see the top line there of $2,400. It is a significant increase in payments. So that's why, again, we want to give parents enough time to make a decision and start planning for it. So as Mr. McCormack said earlier, the Year 9 activity fee of $450 is included in the cost and is expected to be paid in full prior to the departure. We do have a payment instalments there on the 1st of April, the 6th of May and the 17th of June, but it's quite easy just to pay it all in once if you can do that. So these need to be strictly followed because we have factors from our engaged operators World Strides, and we need to pay components of the trip at certain dates, and that's why it represents or coincides, with our payment plans.
Thanks, Tim. I guess it's important to discuss our itinerary. It has been a long-standing feature of Year 9 students of Mance and Pats to attend the snow, so our itinerary has not changed dramatically due to that because it's a bit of a rite of passage. So day one, which will be a Monday in 2022, we'll depart Coolangatta at 6 a.m, flying to Sydney and connecting coaches straight to Canberra. At Canberra, we'll have lunch and visit the War Memorial and then onto our accommodation, which is very close to the snowfields, just past Jindabyne. On Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, the students will have fairly similar days where they'll be woken early for breakfast, catch a bus, catch a ski tube to Blue Cow, if you're familiar with Perisher snowfields, and complete lessons in the morning, have a supplied lunch, and then complete lessons in the afternoon, which is a New South Wales school sport requirement, having 2 lessons in a day. Those lessons are led by instructors, and the groups are around 10 or 12 students in ability levels. Day 5, we'll leave our accommodation near the snow, obviously have breakfast and head for Canberra, where we will visit Parliament House and another attraction which is not confirmed yet, and then leave Canberra for a late flight out of Sydney, hopeful to get home, around the 8:30 mark. So what's included in that price that Mr. Whitney spoke about is our flights, 4 nights accommodation at Ski Rider, 5 dinners, 4 breakfasts, 4 lunches, ski or snowboarding lessons, a lift pass, the ski tube pass, ski board clothing, so that's the pants, parka and the helmet, and protective equipment for snowboarders, which is a requirement, snowboard wrist guards and boots, and skis, boots and poles. You can bring your own ski clothing, but it's included as a rental item.
So what's not included, but highly recommended for our participants, you can see the last 3 points there. Gloves, obviously, to get rid of the cold. Goggles, we prefer goggles rather than sunglasses because some days we've experienced a lot of wind and whiteouts up there. And, of course, ski socks. And we always push the Aldi sale because they come probably 2 or 3 weeks prior to when we leave, so we encourage the kids to access those. Also on what's not included, a couple of meals, lunch on day 1 and dinner on return, but kids can always access that at the airport at Sydney. So interested students need to be aware that we can only take 100 students on our trip, and we need to enforce the selection criteria. And as you can see there, we base that basically on our 4 top priorities there. School fees being paid up to the end of 2021. And because we leave in term 3, term 1 and term 2 of 2022 need to be up to date. Any parents struggling with that and still wishing to send their kids on the excursion, they need to contact the college office and Mrs. Nicole McDermott you can set up a payment plan to ensure your students place on this trip, but that needs to be done well in advance. Another criteria, students' attendance rate at college, including major college events like all carnivals, our opening day, and how they contribute positively to the life of the college. Our third criteria there is Beacon scores at or above 3 throughout the year. So they are behaving and providing good effort in classroom, learning environments, and also minimal discipline behaviour incidents at school. And please note down the bottom, students who receive an internal or external suspension throughout now until the course of the 2022, when we leave, their place will be automatically revoked.
Thanks, Tim. It's important to note the first line on this slide, as the cost of the excursion is based on 100 students travelling. Now, generally the popularity of the snowy Canberra excursion, we do have quite significant interest from students, so therefore that selection criteria needs to be enforced. We unfortunately cannot take more than 100 students for various reasons. It is a large group of students, but also we use coaches, and going over the 100 students will increase the cost significantly based on a third coach, which would not be full. So it's very important that we inform you about insurances and refunds, because understanding that student circumstances do change. But yes, so for any reason your circumstances change and your son or daughter needs to withdraw, it's important that myself or Tim know as soon as that's possible. So if it's before 65 days prior to the excursion, there are cancellation fee of $200 plus a $195 non-refundable deposit, which we usually look after to start with, and is part of the cost already. Then obviously as time elapses, if it's between the 65 and 31 days, there's 50% plus the deposit of the remaining tour fees, and 30 days or less. So you unfortunately have to forego 100% of the remaining tour fees. And so we've put the dates there. Obviously, we need to inform all parents and students at this point, mainly due to it being an informed choice when you choose either the Burleigh CYC trip or snow. We do not want to leave students and parents uninformed about this sort of information and with a sizable, fees due to change of mind.
So during the snow activities, injuries at times happen. During the 2-hour lessons, the kids are guided by a ski instructor, and if an accident does occur at that time, their ski instructor will immediately contact ski patrol, who will then contact the staff, and we are spread out across the mountain, and we can be to the student as a familiar face very, very quickly and accompany them back to the medical centre. If there's a serious accident, we then go on and inform parents and look after the kids as if they were one of our own. And I guess they are, while we have them in our care for 5 days. So you can be well rested on that. Also, we know we are now in a COVID environment, and our providers World Strides assure us that if any students present with flu-like symptoms, then they have a plan in place to isolate and look after that student and protect the safety of the group at large.
Obviously, we need to have some major rules around our excursion, and they'll be detailed. Yeah, thanks, Tim. Obviously, on the excursion, we also have some major rules. On the left of the screen, you'll see the ALPINE Responsibility Code, which all students need to adhere to. We do spend some time on this to inform students prior to going to the snow about all the different rules and regulations on the snow, so I won't go through that with you all. But I guess important for us that students are involved in 2-hour lessons twice a day. Helmets are to be worn, done up when skiing and snowboarding at all times. If there is time for free skiing, we organise the students into buddy groups, and they are on certain runs where we can supervise them and ski throughout. that is not in lesson time. That is when we've bundled them up together into buddy groups. Again, something we go through with the students. They are to familiarise themselves with the colour of runs. If you're familiar with the snow, they use colours and signals to identify which runs are appropriate for which level of skier or snowboard. And if some of these rules aren't adhered to, it puts the safety of students and the whole group in jeopardy. So we do have loss of privileges if there's reports from ski instructors or ski patrol staff about some of misbehaviour. Obviously, college rules still apply in terms of the use of alcohol, cigarettes, vapes and illicit drugs, which will not allowed. If students break any of these school rules or regulations, we'll need to talk about a removal of ski or snowboard privileges for the excursion. Defiance and misbehaviour during lessons will have similar consequences. Obviously, deadlines are important. Mr. Whitney spoke about that earlier in terms of payments, but we also have deadlines in returning vital information like medical forms and permission slips. So that just makes our lives easier in terms of organisation and getting information to providers. Obviously, safety equipment, so your goggles and your helmet and gloves need to be worn at all times. And we also identify the students on the snow with a fluoro armband, which will issue when we're there, and that needs to be worn at all times to identify our students. We obviously have some other expectations that we go through, similar to what you may have at home, like no phones at the dinner table, but we kind of go through those with the students closer to the date.
So where to from here? And thanks again for taking the time to listen to us and view this. Think about it over the school holidays, have a chat with your son and daughter. And very early next year, week 3, we will send out to all families a expression of interest that you need to return as soon as possible. From there, we will formulate the lists and publish those. As we've said already today, we will be applying the selection criteria to finalise those lists. We'll let the successful applicants know. And the group travelling to Canberra and onto the snow, they will be issued initial paperwork. And because it's such an involved excursion, they'll be required to be in attendance for various meetings and complete a whole lot of paperwork. So that is expected if you're a lucky student on that trip. CYC camp students, they'll be issued paperwork. Consent forms are later in the year.
Again, thank you for watching. If you have any questions following this presentation, there's our emails or contact the college in terms of getting in contact. Thank you very much.